If you're old enough, you may remember the two Michael Dukakis ads when he ran up against George H.W. Bush in 1988. One was the one with him riding in a tank, and the other one was dealing with Willie Horton. Or more recently, you may have seen the one with John Kerry, which was put out by the Swift Boat veterans. Or, I'm not this old, but in 1964, Barry Goldwater against LBJ, there was an ad called Daisy. These are some of the biggest and most influential political ads of all time. What I'm going to show you today is, I believe, at the same level of all of those. It remains to be seen because all of those people whose ads were targeted lost. But this particular one with Kamala Harris involved is absolutely damning. And I want to show it to you guys, and I want you to check it out. And I may at some point get Nicole in here to break down some of this psychological stuff that I'm seeing in this video from her. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's get started. Check this out. It's about 3 minutes long or so. Here we go.
Let's get one thing crystal clear. The vast majority of American men have no issue with electing a female president. Our issue lies solely with you.
All right, that's great that they first pointed that out, is that we don't have a problem with electing a woman president. Our problem is with you. Now, right now, we don't know who these people are. We'll see that at the end of the video in terms of who sponsored this video.
You were second in charge of California for 13 years.
As California's Attorney General, Harris promoted enforcement of a law that allowed prosecutors to seek jail time for parents of truant kids.
As a prosecutor and law enforcement.
So basically what this is, truancy, which is something that I knew about growing up, because that was something that, you know, they talked about kids going to school, and if you don't, then you can get in trouble. And so that basically means that if the kid doesn't go to school, then they can hold the parents accountable and put them in jail and lock them up. Okay, let's go.
Seek jail time for parents of truant kids.
As a prosecutor and law enforcement, I have a huge stick. So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy.
I thought that was crazy. I was like, how?
So this is Brendan Woods, Alameda County public defender. Okay, so he would be on the other side. He would have been defending the parents and the kids.
How can you lock parents up?
If you don't go to school, Kamala's going to put you and me in jail. Yes, we achieved intended effect.
Okay, now, all right, now I'm all about obeying the law. And if kids aren't going to school, they're breaking the law, then yes, I think parents should be held accountable to that, whatever the law states. But then there's certain things in here as well in terms of grace, in terms of leniency, in terms of circumstances, as we'll get into a little bit later here. But to matter of fact, go after people because they have kids that for some reason or not don't go to school, and you're targeting them simply for that is not really justice. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that a little bit at the end of this, about what the founding fathers thought about this, but we'll keep going. But the key thing here is my point is that it's her attitude, the joy that she's having in this press conference that she's saying, or whatever she's talking at, this talking head forum, whatever it is. But it's the joy, it's the excitement, it's the look at me, how proud I am. It's like she just locked up Al Capone or some drug cartel, and that seems like that's what she would be excited about, but it's truancy and locking parents up. Let's keep going.
I opened the door and I see at least 7 or 8 cops like wanted to arrest me. As a matter of fact, they did.
And frankly, you know the prosecutors in my office who volunteered to do this?
Look at her face. Look at that face. This is damning. This is damning because of the messaging that the Kamala Harris campaign initially came out and said, it's about joy, it's about we care about you, it's we're not Donald Trump. I've never seen anything with President Trump, anything remotely like this in terms of him being totally uncaring when it comes to parents of this type of issue. Now, has he been strong and stern about real criminals, people who've done really, really bad things? And does he recommend huge and harsh punishments for these people? Yes, but that's a lot different than this.
My homicide prosecutors.
Let's go back. You got to hear this. I'm sorry. I'm going back for. I'm going to let this go a little bit longer, but I'll set the tone here, and I'm gonna let it play out through about halfway through, and I'll come back in. I won't interrupt it for the next 30 or 40 seconds. Let's go. Let me back it up. So anyway, while I'm doing this guy, Amin Hadin, and he was arrested under California truancy law. So these are real people testifying. And this is a CNN investigation. I'm not sure when this was.
Cops wanted to arrest me. As a matter of fact, they did.
And frankly, you know the prosecutors in my office who volunteered to do this? My homicide prosecutors. My gang prosecutors. And they went over there, and I said, when you go over there, look really mean.
She had me arrested and prosecuted because my handicapped daughter was sick in the hospital and had missed some days of school.
I learned that with the swipe of my pen, I could charge someone with the lowest level offense. That person could be arrested. They could lose time from work, and their family maybe lose their job. They'd have to come out of their own pocket to help hire a lawyer. They'd lose standing in their community.
I lost my job and couldn't pay rent, and we got evicted.
Weeks later, I could dismiss the charges. But
I mean, isn't that horrible? I mean, I like the imagery there where they cut into Kamala's statements. You mean with a swipe of my pen, and it's her face, her attitude, her demeanor, her smugness. It's just disgusting. The optics, it's just terrible. I mean, there's ways you can say the same thing and have a little bit more grace about it. But then on top of that, like I said before, this is the part I was telling you about earlier, how when you carte blanche go to the point where you take a law and you just say, that's the law, we're going to do it no matter what. You hit people like this who has a sick daughter who's missing school, and you're locking her up for that. And then they cut into what Kamala said she did, and then they cut into the daughter and the mother of how it affected them. And she's so smug and so proud and so happy about this that it's just really just makes my stomach turn. Let's keep going.
their life would forever be changed.
I became homeless. We had to move into a motel.
All because of the swipe of my pen.
I don't agree. Well, come on.
Just the swipe of my pen, which means I'm so powerful, I can do this to you. And if that's her attitude, can you imagine her going up against a country and her hands on the nuclear codes? Are you kidding me? Do you want this kind of temperament? I mean, there's a lot of talk about George W. Bush not having the temperament to be president, or Trump even not having the temperament to be president. That was the big thing. Can you imagine Trump having his hand on the nuclear codes? Now, I give you Trump. Now I give you this. Which would you prefer?
Kamala Harris did to my mom, and I don't agree with what she's done to other parents as well.
You were second in charge of the United States for 4 years.
If anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Inflation is hitting the highest level in 39 years. A record high number of illegal crossings.
Crime's been surging across the nation.
Huge spikes in homicides.
Could we be heading toward World War III?
After 17 years of failed leadership, you are now asking us to trust you as first in charge of our country.
I am concerned and focused on big issues. Elementary and middle school truancy is actually a big issue.
Now, this is where it gets really crazy. So she thinks that truancy is a huge issue. Okay, what's the huge issue? I'm guessing. I've already seen it, so I know. But yeah, so truancy is a huge issue. So my thought as a concerned parent, concerned citizen, the laws are on the books so that kids can go to school, kids can stay out of trouble, kids can actually learn and become productive citizens and give back to society. That's what I would think. What does Miss Kamala Harris think?
If we're trying to save the state money, because of truancy, California public schools lose $1.4 billion a year in funding. I want money.
My message to all Americans.
She wants money. That's her motivation. I mean, I don't know how more damning you can get than this, because what makes this so damning in the other commercials? We have Dukakis in a tank. That's optics. I mean, he looks silly, and he's trying to look tough. He's in a tank, and they use that against him. The Willie Horton thing was emotional, and it was a bad situation. And then you have the Swift Boat veterans. That was pretty bad too. We have John Kerry basically, if I remember correctly, he was basically in Vietnam, and he was part of this Swift Boat team, and he sold his people out, his soldiers out, and they came out and had this against him. Very damning because it was his own people that were doing it about him. This is 100% Kamala Harris in her own words, and the actual victims who are affected by the things she said in her own words. That's why this, I think, is the most powerful political ad I think I've ever seen. And if it gets out, it's just going to be detrimental. It's just going to be, this to me is an October surprise. But of course, everyone's going to try and suppress this. And I wouldn't be surprised if it gets suppressed on the channel that you're watching this on right now, because this is going out everywhere, at least on my sphere of influence.
My message to all Americans: do not trust Kamala Harris.
As men and protectors of women and children, you are simply a risk we are not willing to take.
So that's who did it. Make America healthy again. So there you have it. This to me is one of the most damning political ads I've ever seen, bar none. It hits all the notes, especially when you talk about the particular election season that we're talking about right now, where we're seeing a massive worldwide realignment where you have left versus right, you have conservative versus liberal. No longer is that the paradigm anymore. Otherwise, you wouldn't have Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., probably even Tucker, and Elon Musk for sure. You wouldn't have these people coming in with the side of a populist Trump. We have a populist left versus a populist right. That's coming together because it's under the mantra of this new vertical alignment of oligarchs, political permanent classes, and people who are just trying to pay for their bread and their gas and their milk on a weekly basis. This is the thing that this video just says all the way around, with her smugness and all of that and her lack of caring. And so what I was going to talk to you about in terms of the Founding Fathers is a principle of the law. And this comes from the Monument of the Forefathers, which is a statue that sits up in Massachusetts. I have a replica right here in front of me. I'm looking at it. It's really cool. If you want to take a look at it, I'll leave a link in the description. But nevertheless, one of the pillars of this particular monument is the law. And the Founding Fathers wanted us to remember what that was about. Yes, we have to have the law, and you have to have justice. And justice means you punish bad things. We all deserve justice. But in this framework, they also understood that God gives us mercy through his son, Christ, who extends mercy to his own. And so they want to balance that out as God does for his people. And so that's what we're seeing a lacking here. There is no consideration for mercy or grace or extenuating circumstances. It's just, give me my money. You broke the law. That's it. It's a black and white type of deal. And in her defense, she has the law on her side, but the optics, the uncaring, that's not going to fly with the American people, especially when you're trying to put her at the highest office. And I don't even know what the law says in California. Obviously, she had the ability to do it, or else she wouldn't have done it, or she would have been sued to oblivion. But you can check out more of that. I'd like to get Nicole in here and talk about her attitude, her facial expressions, her just snobbiness, and her being pejorative, just a nasty attitude across the board. But anyway, guys, give me your thoughts on this video and share it as much as you can, as much as you like before the election, preferably. There's a link in the description here, and you can see for yourself the whole video without me interrupting. So with that, guys, I will see you in the next video.